Okay, let's talk about the second episode of What If. Uh, so this episode starts with the opening credit, which has Chad Boseman name on it, which is kind of emotional because he passed away recently. So the episode started in Morad, an abandoned planet. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And you see T'Challa, which is Star Lord now, a junker, basically uh, going there and trying to find artifacts. You see his helmet, you see his glowing eyes, and he's collecting the artifacts similar to Radio Lost Art, collecting, when Indiana Jones collected that statue. Similar to, I think, the very first scene of Guardian of the Galaxy. And then Korath, the Pursuer, hopefully I pronounced that name correctly, and two guards kind of stop him and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then Star-Lord introduced himself, and Korath, the Pursuer, is like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan. You're a legendary outlaw. You are a lord. You take from the powerful, give to powerless, and shall kneel because you're a lord, right?" And T'Challa, Star-Lord didn't expect this kind of reaction because the original Guardian of the Galaxy, nobody know who Star-Lord was. So then Korath, the Pursuer, basically say, "Hey, it's an honor to fight you. Can I use a gun? Do you want me to use a gun or not?" And then he says, "I can convince me to change my career too, because maybe he wants to be a junker, a ravager." So then he started to fight Star-Lord, and of course Star-Lord beat him up, and he got knocked down. So then Star-Lord said, "Hey, maybe I can use this person." So then he carry Korath, the Pursuer, out. Of course, when you carry him out, there's like another 20 guards out there. And then he basically say, "Hey, you know what? A Ravager never flies solo." He said that a couple times, and then the guard was like, "Is that mean something?" And then come Yondu and his magic arrow knocking out all the guards. Then Star-Lord carry Korath, the Pursuer, and basically out. Basically, essentially, he's going to be another part of the Ravager gang. And Yondu kind of examined the artifacts, and they get away in a ship. So then the Watcher basically say, "Hey, let's go back 20 years and see how this started." And then you'll see T'Challa talking to his father in Wakanda. T'Challa is kind of tired of living in a bubble, and the father told him that, "Hey, outside is violent war and hatred, so don't go outside. You have the blood of a king inside you." So, and then your next thing you see is that T'Challa is kind of playing outside. He's throwing a spear, and T'Challa was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So then two guys grab him, brought him in a ship, and Yondu basically told the guys, "Hey, you grabbed the wrong guys because, hey, here's a white guy, you grab a black kid, white kid, and you grab a black kid." But then T'Challa said, "Hey, I'm okay. I want to go outside this bubble anyway. I want to see what the galaxy holds for me." And then Yondu said, "Okay, let's go." So then next thing you see, 20 years later, they go to the planet and they're at the bar. And Thanos is at the bar, which is cool because Thanos is actually part of the Ravager gang. And Korath, the Pursuer, basically they had discussion. Then Thanos has this idea that he wants to kill half the planet people in the galaxy or the universe. And then I think Korath Pursuer basically called him Captain of Genocide. And then the next thing you know, T'Challa, Star-Lord, was trying to pay for his drinks, so he's going to pay for his credit card, and the bartender is Drax, the Destroyer, and Drax Destroyer, "Hey, your money's not good here because you're the famous outlaw Star-Lord, so you can get it for free, essentially, his drinks." It's like, "Can I get a selfie?" So then he basically tried to get a selfie with Star-Lord, And then after Sulfur, you see a blonde, blue skinned woman, and that's Nebula. And Nebula was examining the artifacts, and Nebula started talking to Star-Lord, and I think they were talking about his father, and I think Star-Lord was saying, oh, your father's changed a little bit. And essentially, Nebula is basically is saying, hey, I have another mission for you. This mission, you can save the planet. Since you are Star-Lord, you're Robin Hood, you rob from the rich and give to the poor. Basically, I need you to get this amber of Genesis that save millions of people from hunger by essentially small amber can kind of save a dead planet and kind of grow plants on the dead planet and basically feed billions of people. But the amber is guarded by the collector. So then Nebula kind of meet her father, and then I believe Korath the pursuer didn't know that that's his father, that's her father, and then is her adoptive father essentially. Then the whole Ravager group had discussion of talking about the collector. The collector is essentially a ruthless kingpin, and he basically collects people. His security is tough, and he is secured by the Black Order. The Black Order, remember, is part of the goons of thugs that Thanos basically used when he was Thanos. So then Yondu, it's like, hey, no way, we can't do this. This guy is a ruthless kingpin. He could dissect and hang you in the wall, so don't do this. But then T'Challa, Star-Lord basically talked to Yondu. They convinced him to do this because basically Yondu say he's the captain, but T'Challa is the soul of the ship. So T'Challa convinced Yondu to accept the mission. Then they go to a planet called Nowhere, I believe. So the collector security is the Black Order, which is ironic because Black Order used to work for Thanos, right? So basically, the plan is that Nebula and Yondu can come and essentially give the artifact or sell the artifacts to the collector, and essentially the container inside the container is T'Challa, which is Star-Lord, and essentially they're gonna go bring the container inside, and then somehow release Star-Lord and let him search for the Amber of Genesis. But then the Star-Lord, the lady Star-Lord, I forgot her name, the lady Black Order, essentially say, hey, let me scan the box there, and then so the other plan was that Thanos and Korath the pursuer were going to start a distraction by starting a fight, which makes sense because I think Korath the pursuer called Thanos the Captain Genocide. So they start a fight, and then you'll see the rest of the Black Order. I think the guy, kind of the big guy, and the kind of the doctor, telepath, getting out of the container and trying to search for the Amber of Genesis, right? And then you'll see the collector, which is, you basically have a nice fur coat on or something. They're basically talking to Yondu and Nebula, right? And then while T'Challa, Star-Lord, is kind of walking around the collector's cages, he kind of stumbled upon, I think, a dog, a black elf. I think that was from Thor, and of course Howard the Duck, because Howard Duck was in the original Guardian of the Galaxy, and Howard Duck was talking, and then Star-Lord said, hey, you know what, I need your help. Can you find this Amber of Genesis for me? And then Howard the Duck was kind of like, okay. You start giving him some crazy direction, uh, and then Star-Lord shot the kind of the cage to open up the lock to kind of free him, so he can kind of tell him where the Amber Genesis is. Meanwhile, back in the fight, distraction, the lady Black Order kind of figure out, oh, these guys are Ravager and something's funny going on. So she basically kind of jumped down with her staff, pound the ground, knocking everybody over, sound the alarm, and then Collector, Yondu, and Nebula basically figure out, heard the alarm and figure out that something's wrong. T'Challa, Star-Lord escape because once the alarm sound, all the Collector's room start closing up, I guess to kind of make sure nobody steal anything. He barely escaped. Then when he escaped, he saw there was a ship. The ship was essentially a ship from his father, and then he went in there, and then there's a hologram of his father, essentially very similar to a hologram of Superman when he was at the Fortress of Solitude, where his father was saying, "Hey, I'm sending out the ship to rescue my son that was kidnapped, or if you're my son, please come return home. Your country is still there, and we love to see you home." The next thing you see is that Nebula kind of pointing a gun at the Ravager, say, "Hey, I'm here to kind of capture you." So she kind of double crossed the Ravager. So now the Ravager, all the Ravager, including Star-Lord, are in prison right now. And Star-Lord is arguing with Yondu, saying, "Hey, my plan is still alive. Why do you tell my plan was destroyed?" Because in a previous discussion with Nebula, beginning when they're at the bar, he basically say he tried to go home, but then Yondu say his plans were destroyed. So that they have an argument. Yondu is saying, "Hey, I basically say it was destroyed because you want to go explore the galaxy, right?" And then T'Challa say, "Hey, you're not my family. I never had family," so that hurt the game. And the game was like, "Oh man, that hurts." So then the guard came, knock out Star-Lord. Next thing you see, Star-Lord is in a cage. Collector is talking to him, and basic Collector was essentially collecting him because Star-Lord is a famous legendary outlaw, and then Collector was kind of unimpressed because Star-Lord didn't have any special power. He can't fly, so he's not very impressed. He was bored. So then the next thing you see is that Nebula shot basically the Black Order, knock him out, and basically Nebula kind of double crossed the Black Order. Originally she double crossed the Ravager, now she double crossed the Black Order, and basically Nebula explained to the Ravager that he told Star-Lord that the Collector was after him, so Star-Lord knows that and has a plan to escape. So then she hold up the Ember of Genesis, say, "I got it." The next thing you see, Star-Lord is in a cage. His necklace is kind of a bunch of knives, which I believe is his claws. That you remember Black Panther, he has some claws. So basically he used those necklace as essentially a brass knuckle and basically break the glass and got out. And then you see the Collector, his assistant shot the Black Order. I think the Doctor knocked him out because she didn't like the Collector enslaving everybody. Then the next thing you see is that the Collector and Star-Lord is fighting, and the Collector is actually pretty buff. He was using the Infinity Gauntlet to basically knock out Star-Lord, just knock Star-Lord down, and Star-Lord basically knocked down, and he got into this Black Panther pose, which was pretty cool. And then they undress, and he's pretty buff. He has this bracelet on, which he used to control everything, essentially. And then he pulled down a whole collection of weapons, which include Captain American shield. He got this helmet from Helena from Thor Ragnarok, and the sword that she used, and started using that to fight Star-Lord. And basically that sword basically start essentially shooting swords out, and then they fought. Star-Lord got trapped. I think got shot in the shoulder. We won the sword. He's trapped against the wall. In the meantime, you see the rest of the gang kind of running away from the Black Order. So the Black Order is coming after them, and the Lady Black Order is kind of coming after them with spears. And then Thanos is like, "Hey, let me fight these guys." So then Thanos kind of stopped and went backward to kind of fight the guards and the Black Order. So he fought, and then meanwhile, Yondu was like, "Let me go and get Star-Lord." And then you'll see Thanos and Nebula potentially fighting the two Black Order members. And then Nebula got kind of the big Black Order guy basically got her by the throat, and she took out the Amber Genesis and kind of opened it up, and some of the Amber got into the big guy, the Black Order, the big guy's mouth, and then plants start going out, and they start going out really fast, basically killing the Black Order guy. And then plants are going everywhere, essentially, right now. And then meanwhile, you see Yondu and Star-Lord fighting the Collector, and Collector's kind of beating him up. But then they eventually tricked him and got his bracelet, which allows them to control everything. And then Star-Lord knocked the Collector into a cage, locked him up, gave the bracelet to the Collector assistant, and the Collector assistant said, "Oh, I know what to do with this," and basically start unlocking all the cages, which the Collector locked everybody in. And then now you see a scene of all the people that the Collector collected surrounding his cage, and assuming they're not going to be very happy, they're going to pretty much, I think, kill him. So then you see essentially Star-Lord essentially using the ship that his father sent for him, going essentially flying away from the Collector's planet. The Collector planet's all green now. And then Star-Lord's talking to Nebula and saying they'll meet up. And then Star-Lord actually took the dog, the astronaut dog, with him, and Yondu's like, "Hey, where you want to go next?" And Star-Lord's like, look at the planet, look at the Earth, and say, "I want to go back to Wakanda, return to my home planet." And the next thing you see is he landed on his home planet, met his father, and they introduce his father to his Ravager, essentially gang, or colleague, I guess you can say that. And then they have a party, and you see Thanos and Nebula, you see Korath, the Pursuer, and then you'll see at the end, essentially, his father's mother talking, basically, he explaining how his whole adventure started. And then the last scene is you see a guy mopping the floor in a Dairy Queen, and it's actually the original Star-Lord. Then you see, next thing you see is his father, which is Kurt Russell, essentially going to take him away to another planet. And you see the last scene was essentially a Dairy Queen. I think they say tri-banana split, and then you see a starship, and essentially Kurt Russell will take the original Star-Lord away for some adventure. And then the very last thing you'll see is that is dedicated to Chad Boseman, which is great. It's a great episode. It's a lot better than the first episode. It's great because it had a lot of different things, and I never saw Black Panther, and I barely saw the first Guardian of the Galaxy. I never saw the second Guardian of the Galaxy, so this is, to me, a great episode. Even though I kind of know a lot about it already, but great episode, a lot better than the first one. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. That's it. Great. Thanks.